My name is Jay Shore. I'm a certified Americans with Disabilities Act advocate, and I'm going to discuss with you some technology for police interactions that I believe can change the entire face of police bullying, coercion, intimidation, threats, and interference with ADA rights. And this is absent intent or authority as legal advice. So a disability is a physical or mental impairment that substantially limits one or more major life activities. And it can be anything that does this. And what I'm getting ready to show you is that cops' ability to lie and deceive and use coercion is a disability that causes a substantial limitation in the major life activities of communicating and interacting with others. So what I want to point out is that police are trained to deal with interactions with the public in a way that the public is not trained to deal with. There's an unfair advantage there, and there's several ways that plays out. First of all, they have qualified immunity unless clearly established rights are violated. And as the public, the ADA rights are clearly established, but unless they're readily apparent, they're not going to be effective, and they're going to have to be invoked to be used. So I have an invisible disability. I have to actually invoke this. I don't have a wheelchair, I don't have hearing aids, but I have an invisible disability, a social communication disorder, and I have to invoke the ADA for the ADA to come into play because it's not readily apparent. There is no duty imposed on them unless it's readily apparent. So I want to make it readily apparent. Secondly, they're trained in deceptive techniques. I mean, this is something they're learning in school, in their law enforcement schooling, and they use it all the time. And we do not have training in communication with someone who can legally lie to us. That's just not something we have any kind of training in how to do as a member of the public. And then they're trained also in verbal command techniques like verbal judo. And these techniques are designed to intimidate and coerce compulsory conformance. So they're trained to do the command presence, verbal command things with you, and you do not have the ability to rebut that or come against it because you don't have the training. So because of Frazier versus Cupp and the cases that's followed it, cops have the ability, law enforcement has the ability to lie and use deception anytime they are doing an interrogation. And the first thing they do when they come up to you is ask you for something. Can I have your ID? Can I get your name? Do you know why I pulled you over? They're trained to start off their interaction with a question. And they're trained to use questions. And this creates an atmosphere where they can use deception on an ongoing basis. I mean, they're just accustomed to lying, and they're actually authorized liars. So this card is meant to circumvent this and defeat this. I'm not trained on how to deal with pathological liars. I don't think you are. So if you use this card, you assume the risk for it. But this is what I do, and I'm telling you that if you want to exercise and enjoy your rights under the ADA, I've tried to give you the best opportunity to do that with this card. Just I don't assume any risk for you using or any liability for you using it, though. I hereby invoke the Americans with Disabilities Act ADA. Your ability, this is to the cop, I hand this to the cop, if your ability to legally use coercive and deceptive techniques against me, Frazier versus Cupp 394 U.S. 731, is a disability that substantially limits my major life activities of interacting with others, communication, and others. I leave that others on there because I don't want to go into thinking, concentrating, those things that could cause them to say, well, we need to get a psych eval on you. They look for anything they can do to bully, and this is meant to circumvent that, not set up further bullying. Additionally, I have diagnosed disabilities that also preclude me from participating in any consensual conversation with you. I'm just yanking the consensual conversation piece right off the table from the get-go because I don't want them to feel like that I am consenting to speak with them, and I'm putting it in writing and in front of them and handing them a copy of this so that they know that I'm not engaging in consensual conversation with them. That's a setup for rights for me. I hereby reasonably request to speak with my ADA advocate to assist me with any communication or alternatively to speak with my attorney before answering any questions. This is a fair request, and it's a request for reasonable accommodation. I don't even have to call it a reasonable accommodation for it to be one, but I am saying that it's reasonable. Because of disability, I am denied equal access to your programs, services, and activities. Let's go ahead and yank that right off the table too. They can't act like they're treating me like everybody else, because I'm not like everybody else. I'm actually the guy that says, because you lie, it causes a disability with me. Now, I have additional disabilities, but this could be used by anyone if they took off that line about the additional disabilities. You are with notice at 42 U.S. Code 12202, 28 CFR 35.178, and Tennessee versus Lane 541 U.S. 509 removes your immunity concerning ADA claims. I want them to see in bold and underline that what I'm doing is removing their immunity concerning what I'm asserting. You are with notice. You're also with notice that 42 U.S. Code 12203B prohibits you from using coercion, intimidation, threats, or interference with my exercise and enjoyment of rights under the ADA. I reasonably request that you accommodate me by not using coercion, intimidation, threats, or interference. Now, that's just like putting your hands around a cop's throat when you say these things. You're not literally doing it, but seriously, everything he or she has been trained in school to use these techniques, these verbal judo techniques, the deceptive techniques, try to get you they'll use interpretive techniques. When you say anything, they'll try to twist your words. All of that has just been taken off the table. So I wanted to throw this out. I put a video out earlier and had a friend ask me if I could explain it a little more, so here it is.